So this is me. Are you seeing the right screen? It's yeah, my computer self. This is my video game self, which is my true self. Um, these are the places I worked in the past. Right now, finally started my own studio last year, Heartloop Games. Um, but I've also been a game design teacher for the last 12 years. I'm one of the three Habibis on the Habibis podcast. I know you have the other two as part of this session, so we're very happy to support you and be here with you. But in the past, I've worked at a lot of different places like Brass Lion, Blizzard, Unity, Warner Brothers, Ubisoft. Big places making very big games and small places making very small games, VR, mobile, AAA, console, everything. Very, very fortunate, alhamdulillah, that I've had this experience. It's given me a very broad design experience. So I am a design generalist. I do systems design and design and UI design. Any type of design questions, I've had some experience in it. And these are some of the games that I've worked on in the past. So right now, my studio, we're working on Polyfighter. It's the first single-player roguelike fighting game, but it's not the first fighting game I worked on. I also worked on For Honor when I was at Ubisoft, and I worked on like a Batman game, Gotham Knights, when I was at Warner Brothers, as Hogwarts Legacy, also at Warner Brothers. And unfortunately, the game I worked on at Blizzard did get canceled, an unannounced survival game, but still, that was a good experience. But as you can see, I've worked on a variety of different games in a lot of different genres. And today, I'm just going to go quickly over some game design principles because I think it's very important to have a foundation so that we're using the same words and we have a similar understanding. So try to abstract this to make it applicable to any game that you work on in the future. That's the whole goal of it. It's not about specifics. It's about like generally understanding these concepts. Game designers need to be able to think in abstract terms, like and apply the frameworks to the games and the thought process. And the best way to learn is actually to play a game. So I am gonna surprise the organizers because I didn't tell them I was gonna do this. This is a lot of fun. I'm gonna need two volunteers. So it could be anybody, and then we're gonna play a game called 3 to 15 that I'm sure a lot of you have played when you were younger. You might know what it is, but if not, I'll explain the rules. But I need two volunteers. I don't know how to see chat. Hold on, let me take a look. Did I get any volunteers? Someone has to coordinate. Yeah, someone has to tell me who.
We got a lot of
Okay.
volunteers.
Who are the first two people who volunteered?
Okay, we have Akira and Hassan Horani.
Okay. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes.
So Akira, I'm gonna make you player one, and Hassan, I'm gonna make you player two. Okay. I'm gonna do the 1S2S. I'm sorry if I spelled it wrong, but here we go. Um, so 3 to 15 is a game where each of you take turns. Akira, you're player one. You take one of the numbers, and I put it in your quadrant over here, and then the other player takes a number. We take turns taking numbers. Your goal is to have any three numbers that add up to the number 15. So you can't do it with two numbers, and you can't do it with four numbers until the numbers run out. So the first person who gets three of the numbers that they selected to come up to 15 wins. And if nobody does it, then nobody wins. Fair? Okay. So Akira, you go first. In chat, number three. Excellent. Hassan, which number do you want? Four. Excellent. Akira, you're up. Five. Hassan, seven. Okay, Akira. I'm waiting. It's okay. You can if you pick a number, it's any three. There you go. Six. Hassan, eight. So you don't win because eight and seven are just two. You need three of them. One. Okay, do we have a winner yet? Two. And now you have no choice, 9. So did anyone get 15 out of any three numbers? I don't think so. Good. You played the game well. So now the question that I have for you is who here has played this game before? Oh, wait. Did someone 9105? You're right. I'm sorry. My math is wrong. Akira, congratulations. You won. I was looking at the wrong three. So we have a winner here. We have 15. Akira, have you played this game before? Okay. So cheating, Void. Don't talk about it if you've played this game before. I bet some of you did, but I meant wait, how do I go full screen from here? Someone has to show me. There you go. Presenter view. Now you're seeing the right screen? Excellent. So, no? Did anyone play this game before? Does anyone recognize it? Who said that? Who said it was tic-tac-toe? Excellent. Okay, so that's exactly what this game is. If you put the numbers exactly in this order, then you're literally playing tic-tac-toe with a different presentation. That is the math of this game. And that's exactly what you have to train yourself to do as a game designer. You have to look at the frameworks and the abstraction of it. And in order to be able to do this, you have to understand what are called the atomic elements of a game. That's how we start to categorize games differently than players. The way players categorize games is valid, but it's not useful to a game designer. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just a different way to look at things. When we're critiquing games, we need to look at the atomic elements of the game. So this is literally tic-tac-toe. Picking X's and O's in this order is exactly picking numbers that amount to 15. Any direction here, it'll always amount to 15. No other combination of three will amount to 15. That is how this works. So this is whoever said this is tic-tac-toe, very astute. Um, so let's go over the atomic elements quickly because they are important and they build into something else. The first is just how many players can play, right? How do they enter the game? Can they leave the game halfway through? Are they all of this, the relationship between them? Are they on teams? Is it co-op? Is it a little bit of both? All of this is an atomic element of a game. Making one change to this changes the game entirely. Like imagine if chess was co-op, how would you even play it? If you had to play together instead, you would need to change the game foundationally, fundamentally for that to work. Uh, Interactions as well. Like, is it direct? We covered a little bit of that on player, but really, like, is this a direct conflict? Are there negotiations that are allowed? Is there any shared information? So all of this changes is another atomic element. The sequences, do you play at the same time? Do you play? I don't know if anyone's played action chess. I'm using chess as an example because it's kind of universal. Chess, but you can play as fast as you can. That is a completely different game. The strategy is very, very different than turn-based, right? Another atomic element. What are the objectives? I don't have to tell you how that changes the game completely if you have to do the opposite. Like some games, like Tarnib is not the same as poker. Like the objective of what you have to do is completely different. So even if the other rules can be similar, it's a completely different game. More on the objectives. And there are two categories of rules that are very important in games. The first is automatic rules, rules that just happen. And the second is player-oriented rules, rules based on player interaction and options. And I know this is basic, but especially if you work on non-digital games, you'll start to see how important this is, like board games and card games, because automatic rules, the players still have to do the thing. You know, it doesn't often happen automatically, like in video games, but they need to exactly understand what they have to do, otherwise it falls apart. So the games do some heavy lifting here when it comes to video games. Understanding that, like, there are advantages and disadvantages in both situations, but you really have to understand the difference between what rules the players have control over and what rules they don't have control over. They just happen by themselves. So if you look at tic-tac-toe, it's two players. You draw a grid of 3 by 3. You choose which player goes first, and then there's a progression of play. Draw a grid of 3 by 3. That's not a atomic element of the game, right? Two players is, right? Progression of play, that is an atomic element of the game. If we change that, that's foundationally different. And the resolution is when you get three of your symbols in a row. Symbols is not an atomic element, right? But three is. right? Or diagonal doesn't really matter in this situation. So like looking at this, you see that they're the same game. When you're comparing the atomic elements, they are the same. And everything else is either an aesthetic, even though one required math and the other required spatial reasoning, that doesn't matter. The atomic elements stayed the same, right? And that's how you're able to see games like Mega Man, one of the first games ever, if not the first game ever, to apply shooting to a platformer and create a new genre. Like because they changed one thing that foundationally changed the structure of the entire game and all the implications around it. So these are called operational rules. But there's another kind of rule also that's not operational. Operational rules are rules that are stated. To play the game, do these things. Can someone give me an example of a social contract or an implied rule? What is not stated, but usually understood when you're playing a game, especially with someone else, another player? Can't cheat. That's a very good one, right? If I play tic-tac-toe, I don't need to tell you and don't cheat, right? That's an excellent one. It's implied that you're going to follow the rules. By me stating rules, it's implied you're going to follow them, right? No cheating is a good one. Any other ones? For chess, for example, don't make two moves at once, but that's an operational, like because we're telling you each one take turn base is also operational because we're telling you. So let me give you an example. If we're playing tic-tac-toe, and I put an X, and then you say, okay, I'll be back in 2 days to put my O. The implied rule is that you're going to play at a reasonable speed, at a reasonable time. It's not stated anywhere that you have to make your move in 30 seconds, but come on, we're not going to take days to play a game of tic-tac-toe. That's why it's the social implied rule, right? The other ones are stated. If you're saying don't take two moves, taking two moves goes against the operational rules. The implied rules are implied. They're just understood. They're like it's a social contract between two players. So those are important as well because depending on the context, you need implied rules to become operational rules. Like if you play chess in a tournament, they have a chess clock because someone could be like, "Well, I'm about to lose, so I'm just not going to play anymore, and I'm just going to get a draw if I wait till the end of the tournament." So now they have to force an operational rule to cover for the implied rule. And understanding this is extremely important as well, right? So this gets me into a topic to show you an example from a video game. Does everyone know what spawn camping is? I'll explain it anyway, just in case. So spawn camping is a dynamic that comes out of having, like if you're playing a first-person shooter and you have spawn points and someone dies, they respawn at a point, right? Spawn camping is when people understand this rule and say, well, I know people spawn here once in a while, so I'll just stay here with my gun and wait. And then when someone shows up, I will kill them, right? So there's no operational rule to stop them from doing that. And implied rules here with strangers, if with friends, maybe you could tell them, hey, don't do this, right? But with strangers, how do you even have this implied rule? So this becomes potentially a problem depending on the context. If you don't care because your game is supposed to be egregious or because there's so many spawn points that, it's not efficient and you're not going to win, you're just going to be a little bit of a jerk to do this, that's fine. But if this is a tournament and there's a like very small map, for example, and this is the optimal strategy and it's not fun to watch and it's not fun to play, then that becomes an issue, right? So is it cheating? No, it's actually not cheating. It is following exactly the rules unless you have an operational rule on top that explicitly says don't do this. And that's why understanding the difference between operational rules and implied rules is so important as designers. And how do we know any of this? So spawn camping, it's a legitimate strategy. It is. If you don't want it in your game, then you're going to have to affect the game so it doesn't belong in it. Now we're going to talk about resources. A resource is anything that you have access to in the game. Time is a resource. Known information is a resource. Like think about any card game. If some card games will say, look at the top card of your deck, that's a resource because that's information you didn't have before, right? Shared information is a resource that could be shared. Any number of lives is a resource. Gold, of course, like anything that you could spend. And the game state is the state where at any point when you freeze the game, the rules that are in place and their effects, that is considered a game state. So what rules do is they change the game from one game state to the next. At the base foundational explanation of what a game is, and what rules are in a game is rules change the game state. If a rule doesn't change the game state, it's not active. It doesn't have an effect. If it does, then that is a rule that is it's a skill issue. I like this. I shouldn't look at the chat. Yeah. I'm gonna ignore the chat for a while. Tell me if I have to look there, because otherwise I'll spend all my time there. And then there's information structures, right? Like we talked about it a little bit. If some games you have shared information, other games you have partial privileged information. Like a co-op turn-based game with no hidden information often is played by only one player who tells everyone else what to do. That's a social dynamic that ends up happening when you have hidden information or different goals between the players, and all of a sudden now people have more agency. And understanding this dynamic and why this happens helps you design a game for whatever goal that you want to have, right? Narrative and setting is people sometimes call this like a narrative wrapper that's applied on mechanics. I think that is accurate, not always respectful towards narrative designers because it's implied that it's not important. It is very important. I prefer someone had said narrative flavor, and I think that's a lot better. Like it gives it, a little bit of a more positive link. But like a Tetris where it's cats coming down, it just feels different. Even if mechanically it's 100% the same, it just feels different. And sometimes players play differently. It removes the edges on the blocks and it feels softer, even if it's exactly the same otherwise. And if they make meowing sounds when you drop them, then you'll see, if you playtest this, you'll see fewer players are gonna drop the cats fast. They're gonna play slower. Like it has an impact and an effect whether you consider it or not. And every narrative layer does. And I know people who play a lot of games, they have no problem understanding this. It has an effect, right? And it helps you even explain the rules if there's a shorthand. If you're making a game that's functionally a soccer game, but it doesn't have a soccer theme, you have to explain what has to be done. But if you put a soccer ball in a goal, people understand exactly what they have to do. So there are different uses for it. You have to think of games as systems. I did watch all the videos that were sent to me. I played some of the games, and I love that one of the games they were saying, "Sorry, there's not much game here. We're still building the systems. You're building the game. The game is systems." That's like, there's no apology for that. You're doing it the right way. You have to think of your game as a set of systems. That's what it is. Everything interacts with everything else. Yes, well, I didn't know, but yes, good job, like building the systems first. That's very important, right? And at the end, we're going to talk about how to know which systems you want to build, which is the very important thing. So you're not spending time only building the systems that don't necessarily come into the game that you want to make. So, yeah, that's it. So you have to play the bigger your game, the more complex it is, the more systems it has. And systems need to be explained. Okay, uh, a process, think of it as a conveyor belt. So one person puts something at this end, another person attaches something to it, and another person attaches something to it, and now you have a thing. That's a process. To make a process a system, it has to connect. That's what a system is. A system feeds itself. So if I say, I give you $5, you buy these parts, then you build them, and then you sell them and use that money to buy more parts. All of a sudden, you took a process and you made it into a system. And that is a real word. Like systems are rules that touch each other and feed into each other in a cyclical way. That's what a system is. So a weather system, it rains, water goes on the ground, it evaporates, goes back into a cloud. That is a system, an ecosystem. Right? Animals die, they become, grass, other animals eat them. That's what system is. System is not just a word we throw around. It's these rules, right? If a system doesn't connect and doesn't feed itself, it becomes a process. And there's nothing wrong with a process, right? But processes can have systems that touch it. Networks are collections of systems. All of these words are important. It's not less the word that's important, and it's the concept that's important. So you could understand what you're doing and how it relates to everything else. And that's how you could end up making deeper games or more game with less work. All of this, building systems instead of building individual features that don't talk to each other. Sometimes that is the right approach. Sometimes that's the right approach, depending on what you're trying to build. But you have to understand these concepts. It's very important. And now I'll touch on this briefly, but I suggest you get the white paper and you read about it. It's about the white paper was about mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. If you don't know about this framework, there are multiple frameworks to look at games. There's no one universal one. There's no one that's better than another. It depends what you're trying to achieve. The example I'm going to give you is this one. I like it. I think it's very concise and does a lot of like is has wide applicability. A game is can basically be understood in from three different levers. You're either looking at the aesthetics of it, and aesthetic normally the word is used to mean visual, but in this context we mean feeling. We're talking about that kind of aesthetic, right? Or the dynamics or the rules. The mechanics are the rules that you put in place. So a mechanic is anything that like we've talked about the different types of rules from before, both apply, but a lot of times the mechanics, when seen from a player point of view, are the ones that the players have access to. Those set of rules, right? Not the ones that happen automatically, but it doesn't matter. Even the other ones affect this. So mechanic is rules in the game. The dynamics are the consequences of these rules coming together. So spawn camping, like the mechanic is when you die, you will spawn here. So dying is a mechanic. I can kill you as a mechanic. You will spawn here. You have this many lives. All of these are individual mechanics. The dynamic is a player learning this, and because they know how it's going to happen, they're going to evaluate that if they stand in the spot, they could kill you. That's a dynamic. Nobody designed this directly. The rules in place created this dynamic. And the aesthetic is how that makes players feel. So the player who discovered they could do this initially will feel clever, maybe even happy that they're getting a lot of kills, and eventually possibly bored because there's not a lot of skill. And the one who it's happening to could feel frustration, right? So these are the aesthetics. You for as designers, as game developers, one thing we have to be careful of is we often think in mechanics. And there was another video, I'm not going to call you out, but you could feel free to volunteer to call yourself out. You're like, and these are the mechanics in my game. And that's valid. But we have to make sure we're thinking about what dynamics these bring, and if the goal of those dynamics are the aesthetics that you want. So players discover aesthetics first, and when they spend enough time, like the first thing you ask the player, what do you think? They'll say, I like it or I don't like it. That's the aesthetic. I was scared, I was happy, like that kind of thing. If they spend enough time, they're like, because of these dynamics. And if they really spend a lot of time with the game, they could break them down into the mechanics. We tend to go the other way, and we have to fight that. Most the developers, they're like, these are the mechanics I want to build. And then eventually, oh, that made those dynamics that I didn't anticipate. And then they question, do they want that? And it's rare that design, we have to force ourselves to think, oh, the aesthetics that I want are this. So what dynamics can I make in play? Which mechanics do I need to build to get there? So we approach it from I want to say most people from most developers from the wrong way. And this is the most important thing. You have to think of the aesthetics first. It's all about what you want the experience that the player for the player to have, and then work backwards. And you're not the more complex your game is, the more systems you have, the more dynamics they're going to be that you're not going to anticipate. And that's why we need to playtest to see if your theory, the hypothesis that you had is going to come into play. If you take nothing away from this lecture, this is the most important thing. Everything else was to build the foundation to explain this. This is how you like train yourself to start with the intention of the aesthetic and to work backwards. The other way is not wrong. There's nothing wrong with it, except you could expect more back and forth. And if it's like, I like this mechanic, I want to build a game around it, that's valid too. Just expect that you're going to go back and forth. But if you have a goal, force yourself as much as possible to start with aesthetic. You'll get there faster. That's how it usually is. So I went over my slides too quickly. That's exactly it. Players start with aesthetics, but the dynamics are the process to emerge. It would have been a lot more useful to go over the slides with what I was saying. It doesn't matter. You get the idea. So here, this is very interesting because a lot of the mechanics that we think of as foundational to certain genre of games were accidents. There were dynamics that came from just rules coming into play. One of the biggest examples is from Street Fighter 2. You could, like, one of the first fighting games ever, but definitely the most popular early fighting game. They had combos that were never intended by the designers. A combo, like in fighting games, it's all about frame data. So if I hit you and your reaction to getting hit is longer than my startup of my next attack, then I could hit you twice before you could react. And that's how combos were born. And in Street Fighter 2, combos were very hard to do, but were possible. Sometimes the link between two attacks that allow for a combo are 1 or 2 frames, 1 or 2 frame links. At a game that runs at 60 frames per second, like with current fighting games, it's 1/60th of a second that you have to press exactly at the right time in order to get a combo, just to give you an idea. But because the combos were popular and some of them were easier, a lot of fighting games after leaned into this. Like Killer Instincts, actually, you could just do this and combos will come out, right? Because they intentionally leaned into it. So this is very common in games where sometimes you look at a dynamic and don't just be like, I didn't plan for this. Ask yourself, is this a good dynamic? Sometimes a new genre could be born, a new incredible mechanic could be born. Dribbling is the same in basketball. The rules of basketball never say you can dribble. What they say is you can pass it to another player off the ground. But also, you're not allowed to run with it. But also, if it touches the ground, you're allowed to touch it again. And so, by touching the ground, eventually players are like, oh, then I could do this. And dribbling was born. It was not intended, and it became foundationally what the sport is about. Same thing with chess. Like when you start chess, you're just learning the rules. Eventually, you cannot play chess without book openings, like studying openings and counters to the openings. I mentioned the chess clock before. That's part of it as well. There are a lot of things. Oh, a very interesting one is in current fighting games. If you play in a tournament and your game accidentally pauses, then the round is lost by whoever paused it. And this is a rule they had to put into play based on what we were talking about before, because otherwise you're about to get hit, you pause, you unpause, you throw off the other person's timing. All of these things, like it's reactionary, it's dynamic. You have to keep that in mind. So you want, if the aesthetic is that you want a player to feel tensions, then you give in the mechanics the tools that you believe will get that tension in the game, and then you study the dynamics to make sure that the tension is maintained. That's the exactly what it is. Spawn camping, as an example, there's no tension. There's just frustration on one side and lack of, well, I mean, there's diminishing returns on the good feeling on the other side anyway, but that's a different topic. So that's exactly it. Spawn camping in this context is something that is in generally undesired by players, by designers, and that's why it has to be either removed or controlled. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. There is a question in the chat. Can we have different MDAs if the game has more than one mod?
More than one mode?
Mod.
Yeah. Okay, like a different way to play the game, like a different launcher or anything? Okay,
Yeah.
so depending on that, actually, you probably have a different game. The answer is yes. Across the board, the answer is yes. But on top of that is a lot of games present themselves as one game when they're really multiple games. Like if you look at Call of Duty, the launcher of Call of Duty, you could play single player campaign, you could play co-op mode that is like, like Warzone or whatever. You could play another mode that's like with zombie. All of these are different games that use the same verbs and mechanics, but and a lot of the same art assets, but they're not the same game. And if you look at even, it's a lie. It's a launcher that launches different games, right? There's no, but like if you look at, for example, a lot of open world games, it's not the same thing. It's one game, but they had different offerings for a lot of different types of players, right? So regardless of which one you're talking about, the answer is yes, right? The answer is you can have different aesthetics as goals. And depending on how you could either tell players the rules of engagement, click on this and you'll play the way you want, or click here and these are the things that we're signaling that you will like more. Examples of this is character customization before you go into an RPG, right? Some players will spend hours making the character that they want to play, and others, you give them a default button because they don't care about that kind of thing at all, right? So you have different aesthetic goals here, right? For the different player types. And that's a completely different talk that we could give. Different player types. And it's impossible. No game has ever done it, and no game will, to make one game that appeals to every player ever. Broad appeal games, they either give you, one or two sides, like either a lot of options to engage with the way you want, or different games through the same launcher that pretend to be the same game. But no game has been 100%. And the best analogy for this is games are like food, right? You can make the best hamburger in the world, but if people don't like hamburgers, they're not going to eat your hamburger. So it doesn't matter. You can never make the hamburger that everyone loves. It's impossible, right? So it's the same thing. You can make it more a buffet style where people can add whatever they want to it and make their perfect burger, and you still won't get the people who don't like burgers. That's just how it is, right? We have different tastes, different personalities, different player types. Excellent question. Very, very good question. So this is it. The rest of the time, I would love to spend looking at your games, but we still have a little bit of time if anyone has questions about this that we could field questions now. But generally, the goal for this is before each game, I'm going to ask you what your intentions are, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback based on what it is. It's more useful to do that for games that have gameplay than videos, because a lot of things I'm guessing from videos, but we could try anyway based on what I'm seeing. But priority should be for games that have gameplay, and the questions, uh, even if it's not the game you made, you can ask questions about those games as well because it'll help you possibly with your game or future games. Yes.
Okay, so we have two questions from Muntadar before we start, I think. Yeah. The first one is, from your experience, what separates amateur game developers from true professionals? What mindset, core skills, and business strategies are essential to build games that genuinely succeed in the market?
Okay, so those are two separate questions, but I'll answer both of them. I know the first one is what separates amateurs from professionals, and the honest truth is, there are some professionals who um, under index in some things that some amateurs exceed in. So just the fact of being professional just means you're getting paid to make a game. And in the bigger studios, especially, a lot of the professionals who make games have a they're very specialized. So they know how to do just one thing. So don't assume because someone's a professional game dev that they have broad knowledge. Some people do, some people don't. Honestly, all it is that separates an amateur from a professional generally is the amount of time that they spent doing whatever that they're doing, not more than that. I'm sorry if that's not a good answer, but I think the second one is a lot more interesting, which is about market viability and all of that. So there is one through line, other than, of course, just fortune. Like you get lucky, right time, right place. That is a layer that's applied everywhere. We don't have control over that anyway. We're ignoring that. One of the most important thing is people who focus on the user experience versus people who don't focus on the user experience. By no means is it a guarantee of success, but if you're like, I see this game is popular and I will make one just like it, the chances of you succeeding are low. If it's like I have this random idea and I'm gonna make it, the chances of you succeeding are low. If it's I see a type of gameplay that's lacking in the market and I have data to show even a feeling to show that this would be something desirable because your chances already are higher, but you have to go through the process of validating your idea and seeing if it's worthwhile. That is like the best thing you could do to increase your chance of success. And I'll give you an example. So Diablo is a really good example of this. It had Diablo 1 and 2 had very strong mass appeal. The later games, they split their audience because some of the players wanted to have a more hardcore experience and some of the players wanted to have a more simplified experience, and it was very difficult for Diablo to keep up with the split and to make one game that was appealing to both. So all of a sudden, before you could play Diablo with one hand on one mouse, you didn't need to touch anything else. All of a sudden, you need your other hand, and you have to play with your inventory, and you have to switch things around. Some players fell off because they're like, "That's not the game I wanted to play." Other players were like, "This isn't hard. Like this, I want more." right? And it was very hard for them to capture both. They still had very successful, like, Diablo 3 and 4, but like it created a gap, two gaps in the market. One was picked up by the devs who made Path of Exile. Oh, you want more? We'll give you more. And it started off more niche, and then they grew that player base. They identified, I want to play Diablo in this way. Let's validate how many other people want to play it in this way. Okay, we're going to make a game like Diablo, but more like this. Oh, people like it, and there you go. At least that theory at the beginning, it was necessary. And on the other extreme, you have Vampire Survivor. You have, I want to play a game like Diablo, but streamlined and simplified, where I just remove all the edges. Just because you want to play it doesn't mean there's enough other people who want to. That's why the validation is necessary. But if you don't at least start with this, the seed of, I believe this, let me try to find data to prove it's true, then what are your chances of success to achieve it, right? You could get lucky, but then why take advice? Just try random things until something works. What I'm talking about is how to have a goal and get there. So you need a hypothesis, and then you need to test it out. You need to get validation and see if it's worthwhile. And then there's a whole bunch of different things. Now that you know it's worthwhile, what will it take? Do you have the time to do it? Do you have the money to do it? Like, do you have the platform to do it? All those are completely different questions. But the very first thing is, what user experience do I want to build? And are there enough people out there who want that same user experience? So an example of I'm not going to say the name of the game because that's not very nice, but there was one pitch that I saw that I knew was not going to succeed, because it was, hey, we're going to make Vampire Survivor, but with heavy narrative elements. And I'm like, you don't understand the player base. Like like if you, and I could have been wrong, but the way that they propose it, they're like, we tried this, we tried this, we tried this, we didn't work. So you're coming and telling me, and they're like, how do we fix it? I'm like, you just got validation from the market. You're coming with data that your idea doesn't work. You don't fix it. You change it, or you come up with a new idea. The fans that you think are telling you, we don't want this. We're playing Vampire Survivor because I want to be brainless. I want to go fast. And then you stop me halfway through the fight with dialogue. Like, who is this for? Just because you have an idea doesn't mean there's a market for it. And I could have been wrong. Like, maybe the game is not for me, and they got data and validation that this was a good idea, but that wasn't the case. And then them trying to insist on this is where they wasted their time and money for a long time and released a game that nobody wanted. So validation is very important. Does that make sense? I hope I answered the question.
Okay. Can we take one more question before moving on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Also from Montadar, he said, "How can I think you answered this partially in the previous question, but he said, how can a developer properly understand the game development market, including analyzing competitors, identifying the right target audience, and choosing the best monetization strategy before starting a project?"
So this is impossible to answer as one question in one shot, because if there was just one universal answer, then I would be a multimillionaire, and everybody who follows me will be a multimillionaire. Like, there's so many dynamics at play. The answer is always going to be super complicated. There are a lot of factors, and you have to get validation is really kind of the answer. If it's helpful, I could tell you how we decided to make Polyfighter, and like maybe that'll help as a use case that's real life use case. Um, the Polyfighter started off because when I was working Warner Brothers, I saw, like, even though I didn't work directly on it, I saw that Mortal Kombat, a bunch of the players were playing in single player. Right, they were playing single player. It surprised me because I played fighting games when I was young, and I played almost, I won't say exclusively multiplayer, but a lot of multiplayer, and I played some single player in some games. I didn't understand that actually the vast majority of fighting game players play single player. I didn't understand this. And I saw the data, and I'm like, maybe this is a Mortal Kombat thing. And then when I looked at like any Steve achievements or Xbox achievements, I saw that it's not just a Mortal Kombat thing. If you look at any achievement, like 70% of players finish arcade mode, but maybe 10% play 10 matches online. And like, these numbers are shocking. They didn't make sense to me. And I started to understand that this is actually across the board in a lot of different genres. It wasn't unique to fighting games, but we needed to validate that market. So already on its own saying, okay, so we'll make a single player fighting game. That's not enough. There are already fighting games that have a single player mode. So we were actually exploring, okay, what is a gap in the market of a type of single player that doesn't exist in fighting games and why? And then we got the to roguelikes. There are no single player roguelike fighting games. Why aren't there? It makes sense. It's because AAA doesn't make roguelikes. AAA has this data. Indies don't have the data, and indies think what I thought, which was reasonable, that if you make a fighting game, you need to make multiplayer, and it's usually not worth it because you're competing with the other multiplayer of other games, and that made it clear that there was a gap in the market. So this was the seed. Still no validation. There's no guarantee that people will want a single player roguelike fighting game. So we made a demo really quickly, within like a month, and it wasn't. I could show you pictures of it. It wasn't very pretty. Didn't have to be. That one almost nobody saw. We saw it ourselves to test it out, right? Then we made a prettier one, and then we showed it to people, and then we started seeing that people were getting excited about it to understand the shape and size of the market, right? And a lot of people didn't want to play it, and that's fine. We asked them questions. Do you play roguelike games? Do you play fighting games? How often do you play the two? And if they were not in our demographic, the intersection between the two, then it didn't matter if they didn't want our game, right? So because we're not going to change the game for everyone. We know what our segment is, and we want to see if that Venn diagram would be interested in our game. And then the second question is, how big is this Venn diagram, right? Like, how big is this intersection? And if it's big enough, right, you adjust the budget of your game so that it could be profitable, right? Because if that intersection is, oh, it's sizable, but we need to make the game in 6 months for us to be profitable, that's valid, right? Then don't spend 7 years making the game. And it could be the other way around, where the polish level that they expect is high, the math comes into play. All it is, it's a series of hypotheses that you get validation of, and you hope that nothing changes meanwhile. Like another game comes out with some like there's a lot of that could happen as well. So that's why there's no, silver bullet answer. It's too many things are changing all at once, but at the very least have an intention. Because if you don't have an intention that you validate, then what did you learn? How are you going to do better next time? Now I know what I would do better. I could go through this process faster because I've gone through it multiple times. It doesn't mean each time will result in a success. No, but each time will result in learning. I'll learn about the market. I'll learn about, how it changes and shifts. I'll learn about players and their habits. It'll make me better for the next time. That's the only thing you could hope to do, right? So don't expect your first game to be a huge success. Those are huge outliers. It almost never happens. Make small, tiny games with a goal to learn how to make games, what the market is, like quick iterations. That is the path to success. With each one of those, you're going to inch yourself closer. Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh, this is a really good lesson. I love the statement. The Void Strike X88, love your name. Put it in the chat. The What do you need to have a business? There's only one thing you need before you can have a business. Everything else is not important or is less important. There's only one thing you need to have a business. It's a client. If you have a client, then you could sell to them. That's it. So you just need to find, like, if you put that as your mind frame, that if you're looking to do, because your question was all about market, it's business. Like, there are other reasons to make games. You can make it for fun. It could be like because you have a story to tell. Those are valid. But if your goal is to make a business of this, your entire plan has to revolve around finding clients and making something for them. If you found your clients, if you have data that shows 100,000 players are asking for this exact same type of game that nobody's making, then you're on your way to having a business, right? If you don't have that, you don't have a business yet. You have ideas for what a business could be. Does that make sense? Cool. Awesome. Do we want to do one more question or do we want to jump into the prototype? So don't have
I
so much
think
time.
I think I see no more questions in the
Cool.
chat. If anyone has questions, put them in the chat and I can raise my hand.
That sounds good to me. I'm gonna stop sharing to start sharing. Do we have a volunteer for who wants to have their game evaluated? If not, I'll pick one from my list, and that's valid too. All right.
Okay, we have two volunteers. We have Zain.
Okay. Let me go through my Excel sheet that Abdurrahman was kind enough to share with me so I could find Zain, I think was the first name.
I'll pull up the sheet also on my side and I'll tell you the number.
Thank you. That would be helpful. I don't see Zain as a name on here, so it must be a team name.
1 second. It's الفريق الخبي. It says dummy. Do you see that or no?
Yeah, dummy 4
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Okay, got it. Let me see if it's one of the ones I downloaded. Won't take long. Yep, got it. Ah, yes. This is the food game. So I'm gonna share my screen. You tell me if you see it when you see it. I think I have
Yeah.
to optimize for video. Let me unshare so I could optimize for video. I think that'll make it easier for everyone. Optimize for video sharing. Optimize for video sharing experiences doesn't let me. I don't have the option to do that. Yeah, I don't have the option. Yeah, it doesn't give me the option to optimize for video, so it might be choppy, and I apologize. I don't know why I don't have the option, but I don't. Okay, so the first thing I did when I tried this game before is I almost threw up, so I have to put the sensitivity way low. I suggest you play test with a few people and start it off at a lower sensitivity so that you don't, a lot of people don't look in the options. I loved that you had this option. Thank you for putting it there because otherwise I would not have been able to play your game. So I'll start with a question. What was the goal of this game? So if you're in chat, sorry, let me get the chat back up because I'm in Zoom. I have to reshare it. So what was the goal of this game? If you could give me like just a sentence, what did you want me to do? Because the thing is, I could give advice in two completely different directions. And if you don't want to answer that, that's fine. I could tell you the exploration of the whole thing. Because there are different angles that you could take for here. A lot of the things I know this is a prototype, a game jam demo, so it's okay, for the rough edges. But a lot of the things that you want to be careful of is um, make sure the usability is there. That is a core. Even if, the text is debug and it's not put in a window, all of that is small details. The at the end of the day, there is usability that you have to keep in mind, otherwise it'll make the game very hard to play. The two directions you can take is more simulation that's like real or more like slapstick physics jokey, right? Here and I say this with love and respect, don't take it the wrong way. I'm not sure which one you're going for, so it's hard for me to give advice in one way or the other. So when I walk up, it says pick up a pan from the shelf using the left mouse button and put it over the oven using left mouse button again. I'm happy you gave me these instructions. So when I clicked left mouse button on the pan, see what I did? That's exactly what happened last time. I threw the egg into the street. It didn't respawn, and the last time I played this, I couldn't go on. So I couldn't play some more. That could be okay if your goal is to make the impossible to finish game that's physics based and slapstick and oh no, like it just depends on your intention. But if this was a serious no, let's learn how to cook or type of game, it already like I'm projecting in the future. The second thing is same thing. Right now the object is following and getting stuck on physics. And if this is a slapstick, it doesn't matter, we're just having fun type game where that's okay, right? But if you wanted this to be a serious game, when I say serious, like more like a simulation game, um, then what there are so many different options that you could do. One is you disable collisions on the object itself. You could have a shader on top of it when I'm able to place it, and when it go, because if you disable the collision, I could go through the wall with it, for example, right? So you could make it go, for example, from red when you can't drop it to green when you can drop it. So you could detect when the collision can be turned on safely, and that quality of life feature will make it a lot more usable. Because when I came here before, it was finicky. Oh, I did this, and I'm like, where is it? And okay, wait, no, I have to go up first, and oh, it got stuck on the wall. You see it live? That's exactly like what I had to say the first time. And again, if this is like a slapstick comedy game and you're gonna add like goofy characters that when a pan hits them on the head, they react, great. Don't
Yeah, it
change
is.
that.
It is
Okay,
that type of game.
awesome. If that's the case, then great. However, um, I'm not going to talk about the simulation anymore. I'm going to talk about other things. If that's the case, then make it feel more like that, right? Like here, when it gets stuck on collision, I don't actually feel the slapstick. It should like fly off and have physics. It should like feel more intentional. Now go back to the MDA, the mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics. What is the aesthetic that you want me to have? You want me to have the aesthetic that this is a hard thing to do that has a lot of physics and that I keep messing up in hilarious ways, right? So you lean into that and then you put the rules in place, the mechanics that will get me there, and then you evaluate the dynamics. So here, the dynamic is more frustration than slapstick. I don't find this funny. Give me things that make it funny. Add clutter, add other physics-based based things on there, like lean into the aesthetic. I had to ask you the intention because I didn't if you did that, I wouldn't have asked. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Obviously, it's this kind of type of game. This isn't obvious yet. So put your energy into like have that as that's going to be your assignment for at the end of the day. Have that as your creative pillar. Our creative pillar is we're making a slapstick food making game, right? Now you have to also ask yourself about usability. Even a slapstick food making game, what happens if I throw an egg out the window? Do I follow the instructions until I get to that part? And then, oh, see, it's very finicky, right? Until I get to that part, here I remember it was oil. I had to for the first one, I had to press left mouse button, and the second one I had to press E. Already, that's like, why is it two different things? You can speak anytime.
Hi
No, I
there.
don't have anything to say. I'm just listening to what you're saying.
Oh, no, someone else said, "Can I speak?" I think. So here, get an egg from the shelf to crack it on the pan, but the egg is gone. So little things like this while you're playtesting, I know this is a work in progress, so this is not a judgment on it in any way. I'm just like talking in general. If I throw the egg out, what happens? You could do multiple things. One of the things you could do is say, "Oh, if there's no egg, I could put anything, and the game will still react to it, and it's hilarious." Like, and I'm putting something else. Or you could be like, "No, when an egg is thrown out the window, spawn another one, or always spawn another." Like, but here, my only option is to quit the game, which is not a very good experience. Even if you're doing the slapstick thing, you want to give me other options as well. The other usability thing, and this is like more goes into QA more than playtesting. I went here to buy things, but then it was what happened at some point is I clicked in the world and I lost my cursor and I couldn't like I think it was here and I couldn't exit. Little things like that are just quality of life, but that's more bug fixing than playtesting. Otherwise, I think you have a good foundation here. I did play some music before, and that was really nice. You have a good foundation for what you're trying to achieve. Just lean into it more, right?
Well, so for the egg problem, you can exit from behind to pick it up.
Is that the user experience you want the player to do? And if that is valid, if you say
Yes,
yes, what?
you are actually meant to leave your restaurant. We have another mechanic we haven't really worked on yet that have you to leave your restaurant. So leaving a restaurant is part of the game dynamics. We're not
Amazing.
stuck in it.
Okay, I
And
wasn't
for the buying, you can also press E again. As I think, yeah, you can press E again just to leave the laptop.
excellent. You have answers to these things, and that's good. But keep in mind that when you're playtesting, you're looking for two things: signs and feedback, right? So,
We have gave the game to playtesters actually.
yes,
We got the same.
Is
We
my
actually
mic
got the
working?
same feedback.
yes. So
Is
when you're
is my mic
playtest,
working?
yes, your mic is working.
All right.
So when you're playtesting, you're looking for two things, signs and feedback, right? Think of it like when you go to a doctor. When you go to a doctor, what happens? The doctor does two things. They ask you the information that they can't test for, and then they test for the things that you can't answer, right? So when did this start? How did it start? Where are the things that happened? The things they can't test for. And then the other things they don't really ask you. They take your temperature, they take a blood test, they take all those different things, right? You have to think of playtesting this in the same way. Any type of game. So there are the things that you observe. If you sent it for to people to playtest and you're not seeing what they do, then you're missing a very crucial thing. You're missing the tests, like the equivalent of the tests. Where are they going? Like you're like, oh, but they're meant to go outside. Great. I didn't know this. I might have experimented and tried it later, but I'm one person. What do players do? And does that align with what you want? What are they actually doing, right? And then you could ask them the questions, which is the feedback, and the questions are um, go back to the MDA framework, they usually start at the aesthetics, how they felt, right? But they're not often in the dynamics. The dynamics you see them while you're watching them playtest more, and they're rarely ever talking about the mechanics. Even if they think they do, they don't understand how the like in general how the mechanics lead to the dynamics. So all of that is to say, it's great that you're playtesting. Are you watching them play it while they're playtesting as much as possible? And also, are you testing that they are the target audience? Like if they give you feedback and you're like, this is supposed to be slapstick, and they're telling you, look, this game isn't good because there's no score, and I'm looking for a high score, and you're like, oh yeah, you're an achiever. That's not, you're not our target. You need to have that data point as well. And I'm not assuming anything because I don't know who you play tested with or how. I'm just talking generally of how playtests are conducted. But saying you can leave is great. I didn't have any real information to make me feel like I could. And again, this is not a value statement in any way. Just letting you know how I experienced your game, and so they could look at it through a different lens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, and I would know that.
Awesome. Now, the person whose mic works, I think, had a question, and their mic stopped working again. Okay. So if you have it,
Is it working now?
it is working again. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my mic today. Yeah. So I didn't have a question, but I wanted to explain the game even more. So the
Yes.
goal of the game is to become the best restaurant in this street. If you look over the street on your right, there's your rival. Yeah, there it is. The one, the green one.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, he's your rival. So the mechanic of the rival is still not implemented in the game yet. All right. But there's one thing you can do is to take the cutter
The
and
cutter?
yeah, there's a cutter on the shelf in your place, and go behind his place, and you can there's a fuse box, and you can cut off the power on him.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and we still have a bunch of ideas. So we are currently working on the NPC that's supposed to get out and chase you when you ruin his place. And there will be like rats. You can catch them and throw them at him.
Okay. So what's your gameplay loop?
The gameplay loop is supposed to be based on junkie physics. You sell food to the customers.
Okay.
After that, you get money. The money you
Okay.
can either keep selling to achieve your goal, or you can go to do pranks on your rival to achieve the other ending. The
Okay.
other ending is your rival will have a heart attack and his restaurant will be closed, and then you will become the best restaurant in the street.
Okay.
Evil
So
ending,
this is
you know.
great. This is great. I think that's a really good pitch. I think it's a lot of fun. I would, if you don't already, I would actually draw out your gameplay loop, right? What you just told me, write it out. And the reason for this is because it'll help you find where the errors are, if there are any in it, on a paper way before you start building too many systems. It'll also be a guideline for you to go back on. Uh, I right now there's two branches. The first is in that case, what when you're playtesting this, all of what you just said is irrelevant because you don't have it built, so it cannot be factored in. So you have to give what you're playtesting now. Is it the mechanics? Is it like what are like for the playtesters say you could tell them there are other mechanics at play. All we care about now is are you having a good time cooking, right? And that's fair. Like the other things can come later. The other things are planned, but you what are the rules of engagement, right? The first thing here. I have other feedback I'll give, like why is your rival not in front of you, and like other questions like that if it's more intentional. But all of these other systems that you're talking about, they don't sound like systems yet. If you thought of them as systems, that's where the loop will play in effect. Like a system, again, it's not a process. If you cut the power, right? How does that feed into the rest? He chases you, then what? Then he goes, then he reconnects it. Now he has power again, because the players will
Yeah,
understand this as
I
this buys me time, this interrupts this. It there is another goal to do this,
uh,
and then you're choosing between
yeah,
two choices, right? It's all about decision making. That's what you have to have expressed. I'm not saying you don't have this because I have no way of knowing, but I'm saying like don't forget to think about your game loop and how these systems play into it, right?
yeah. So,
so hold up,
up,
here. May I talk now? Myself?
yeah,
Yes,
go.
but we're gonna
So
keep it
you
to one
said,
more thing because I do want to play other games, if that's okay.
all right. So you said that mechanic of the rival restaurant, how does it connect to the game loop? So what you're so how the game loop works is people come to your restaurant, you give them food, then you have an intersection where you can either prepare for more cooking or go mess with your rival. Messing with your rival will actually give you money and rating for this, which give you more customers because his customers are going to you now, not him.
Yes, and I get that. Like I intuited that, and I think it's good. What I mean is you have to express it. Like I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a random thing that sends some customers to him and some customers to you, and you have like a line. The best like the user model is if I have a lineup of customers, I don't have a reason to go and interrupt them because I could be making money here. But if I run out of people, then my choices are this and the other. Like I could either
Oh
make
yeah,
a
hold up.
lot.
So something on that. He also can come and mess with you. You're not the only one who can mess with him.
Yes. Oh no, I get that, but now you're still talking. Everything you're saying is mechanics, right?
Yeah,
What I'm saying is like think of the dynamics of it, right? And we could spend a lot of time talking about this, but like instead of explaining it
yeah,
to me, plan it out because like like convincing me won't help. Convince yourself. Like
yeah.
come up with the systems and say these are the choices the players have at each time. Draw out the loop and say, and then from this, these are the choices they have, and this that way when you're building it, you can have your evaluation isn't did I build it? It's is it achieving what we want? Right? So you have to have the want first, right? Not this will happen. That's not, it could happen. It doesn't matter. It's we want this. We want to have moments where you don't have customers, and in those moments, we want to have options where you could get customers. These are options that we have for what these they could be. We're testing if they give us our goal. Don't be married to the idea. The ideas are not important. You could build the perfect, and now you're releasing rats into his restaurant system sorry, feature, and nobody uses it because there's no use case for it. And you thought there was, but there's another more optimal way to do it, and you don't know what to tune for. So that's it. Either way, we could spend forever on this, but I do want to play other games. So if it's okay, we'll move on to the next one. But I had a good time with this one, and I'm looking forward to seeing more progress. I'm
Okay.
yes.
So the next one is number 9 on the sheet. It's by Karrar Haider, Thundercloud.
Haydar. Okay, Thunderclapped. Was that
Yes.
a gameplay one or a video one? Because I don't see it on
Yes,
my.
it's on Edge, I think. It's playable
Oh, it's
on
on itch.
Edge.
Yes, I have that one. Okay, good. I'm gonna bring that up. I still can't optimize for video. I'm not sure why. This is the one, right?
Yes.
Let's assume that's the right game. Okay. So for this is great. I did play this one before as well. Uh, so arrow keys to move. You could also jump. So the few things I'll say about this is that when I'm jumping, the jump is extremely floaty, and this is not uh, a a a comment in terms of good or bad. You could have a game the jump is very floaty and it'll be okay if that's your intention. You could have another game where the jump is a lot more committal, like you're committed to the jump once you jump. It just depends on the kind of game that you want to do and what other intention. So think of the aesthetic that you want. However, there is one thing that, in my opinion, you like, unless you have a really good reason you shouldn't do. And here, if I'm jumping, I'm gonna jump while moving to the side, but I'm gonna continue moving to the side. If you notice, there's like a few frames where she's completely stopped before she moves again. This is extremely jarring. And if you play other platformers, pay attention. Almost no platformer does this. There are a few that do. It's a very intentional choice. But this feeling of stopping is really grating to the player because games like this allow this much fluidity and movement in the air. It's a huge contrast between when I land on the ground, I can't move for even just a few frames. Generally, these frames you can still play the landing animation, but when you play the landing animation, allow me to move anyway, even if it slides a bit, and really shorten the landing animation. Most games, the landing animation is 3 or 4 frames, and again, out of 60 frames per second, it's like extremely, extremely short. And
I
then, and
did
even the, yes,
I did discuss this with Karar. We were
yeah,
still working on a lot of the small details, like how much
okay.
damage you deal, how long is the jump, how much delay, like the attacks need. We're still talking about this stuff, and we're delaying them because we're still working like on the sprites. As you see, this is just a placeholder. I'm currently working on like finalizing the sprites and like the attack animations, and because
Don't
all of the
don't do
art
that.
of the game is done by one person. It's just me.
Yes. No, and I get that. I'm sorry, with respect, do it the other way around. Do the art last, not first. Get it feeling good and then do your art because it'll be so hard for you to change your art later and you'll need to actually get the right timings, even if it's with stick figures, even if it's with like you drawing a few lines. Do that, get it to feel good, and then finish the sprites. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with maybe creating more artwork that you can't use. Like exactly what I was talking about, like the landing frame of the animation. Like maybe you don't need it at all. But you'll only know that if you actually make it feel good for it. That is the priority. So and you did a great job with the sprites, a really good job with the artwork, but also think less art and more animation. Like when she's landing, I need one frame where she's completely on the ground. When she's jumping, I need one frame where she pulls back before she goes
We
to the
already
top.
have that. Karar didn't use it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, in that case,
Yeah.
if what do you want me to evaluate? Because
I mean,
all my
just
feedback was to do with animations and timings for
like
this.
all of the mechanics. I don't know. This is kind of an old build of the game. We're currently much. We have a lot of more progress.
Okay.
So I don't know actually what's in the game right now. Does it have an attack?
Yes, it has an attack. I
Okay.
tried it earlier. It was, hold on. Let me get to the ground. This is the attack.
Oh yeah. What do you think about like the amount of frames? Because one thing, and I don't know if this is. I think, like, I don't know if this is like. I feel like it's not professional, but like
So
every
you
single
have
different animation has a different like FPS setting. Like
so
for example, the jump animation has 8 frames, I think, and the running animation has 7. The attack animation has like 10, I think. And I don't know. I feel like this is bad for game design, and I don't know. Should I fix like this thing?
no, the numbers don't matter. You could have
Really?
very few yeah, it's not it it does you need as many as you need, right? It's all about the goal. When you're asked about the attack, right now what you're missing with the attack is anticipation and then the follow through and sorry, basically it's startup frames, active frames, and recovery frames. You need those to be extremely clear. And think of it in keyframes, right? The in-betweens, you could add more, you could move, but what are your keyframes here? The problem is I don't see the keyframes. So think of it, if this attack was 3 frames, what would
Mhm.
they be? It should be this, and then this, and then the recovery. And draw those extremes first, because it's all about feedback. And
Yeah.
then you could figure out the timing in between and how many frames you need. And a lot of the frames in between can be a blur. Like they last a second or two. You're stuck on the key poses. Spend your time on the key poses. Same thing for the jump. Here, it's you're trying to make it too smooth, right? That's not how it works in video games. In video games, it's extreme. If I'm in the air, the frame before I'm in the air, I'm the opposite. I'm down, so that in the air I'm like this, and then when I'm falling, I'm in a different. Think of like the extremes of the keyframes and then add the other frames as needed. You could actually do a lot more with a lot fewer frames, but your keyframes are the most important thing. It doesn't, and the numbers don't matter. Like if your walk is 5 and your jump is 17, it, nobody's gonna feel a disconnect from it by
Mhm.
numbers. They're gonna feel it by seeing. Like they're gonna look at it and they're gonna feel, "Well, this one is missing something. I need another one." So like the actual like numbers on Excel sheet don't matter.
All right. Thank you so much for your feedback.
It's my
One
pleasure. And
thing-
here, the other thing I wanted to say about the combat for
all
the
right.
enemy, like you need counterplay, right? If the enemy is about to attack me, it's already in the attack. The first frame is already a hitbox. The enemy has to be getting ready for an attack, so I could know when is it, like it's all feedback. When am I supposed to attack? When am I supposed to move away? And also, what is my counterplay? If the enemy's about to attack, am I supposed to move back and forth
Yeah,
to
we
attack?
still haven't implemented that, but the design that we're thinking of is you bait the enemy attack and then you attack yourself. And like different enemies have different timings and different patterns for attacks. That's what we're thinking of, but we still haven't worked
Yeah,
on.
that's
So
okay. Before you work on it, write it down. Right? Because again, say we're gonna have this many enemies, and they're gonna have this different like, and on paper you're gonna be able to see, oh well, it's a lot of the same, or we really need a dodge button, or no, we need to have something else, like on paper, and then you validate that because the don't go straight into building the sprites because you have no wiggle room, right? Start with
Mhm.
a plan and say we're gonna have the enemies that are going to have a projectile, and the projectile, this is the counterplay to it. Oh, all of a sudden now you know you need to be able to duck. But otherwise, if you're building it, then what are you going to do when you encounter a problem? How are you going to pivot? You have to plan it and then test it iteratively. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the last thing you do is the art. You do one sprite just to get your, but like everything else should be stick figures. It should be just stick men doing the attacks. All your enemies are stick men with different colors that you shape up and down. Like when I work at big studios, we make one enemy and all the other enemies are like like one enemy that's like not even finished. It's just like a base model.
A
And then
placeholder.
placeholder. It's all placeholders. And then when we prototype gameplay with that enemy, they're holding a primitive. Oh, that's a sniper gun, but it's really just a cylinder because we
Mhm.
don't know if we want a sniper. And we test it and we tune it, and okay, we got it working with whatever animations we have with placeholders. It doesn't matter. When it's the timing's right, everything's good. Then we know what we need to art it. And a lot of times it changes. We're like, oh, we can't have this type of projectile because the player doesn't have enough time to react to it. So we have to change it to this type. Now the gun that we had planned doesn't work, so we have to adjust it this way. You start with the intention, right? That gives you wiggle room to make it the best version it can. So for this attack specifically, the enemy's attack, the big problem I see with it is that you're talking about timing, but the first frame already has what I perceive as a hitbox. What is the frame before that? What are the keyframes? You need 3 frames.
Mhm.
The I'm about to attack, the attack is active, and I'm recovering because you want to see I'm about to attack, learn the timing. When the attack is active, not be there, and when it's recovering, that's when you punish. If you don't have those keyframes, and I don't see this, I see attack, attack, I guess recover, but like all of them kind of look like attacks. So you need the more extreme version of this, right? And then you could fill in between. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Excuse me, if you have time, we have a more recent build of the game. If we can send it to you, like,
Yes. Add me on LinkedIn, send it to me. I always respond, but I'm always late, as Abdurrahman will tell you. But I always respond eventually. I'm sorry. But yeah,
I
send it
think
to me. I'll be more
I
than
think
happy
we
to give you
already
feedback.
uploaded on the same page. If you can just reload it and load the game again.
Like now? Yeah, now I think I'll play a
I
different game
think
just to
Bilal
get.
already did it.
Yeah, I think I'll play a different game just to give another team a chance because like we're
All
running
right.
out of time. But look, add me on LinkedIn, remind me, and I'll take a look at it after if that's okay.
All right.
That works? Because I think I have time for maybe one more. I can stay a little bit later, but I don't know if everyone else can, so I don't want to promise, over
We
promise.
don't want to take too much of your time. I wanted to ask you actually if we can take one or two more games and then at your own time you can add your feedback to the same sheet and I'll share it with the teams if that's
Yeah,
possible.
absolutely. But in order to do this, effectively, I'll need everybody to add what they want me to evaluate. Because right now I'm seeing
Okay.
a disconnect. Like the pattern is I'm looking at things, they're like, oh, but we don't want you to look at that because there's other things. So if you're
Yeah.
just like, look at this, and if there's no focus for now, we don't have to rush it. There's no, we could wait till later. Once there is a focus, I could evaluate that. I could do systems, I could do gameplay, I could do like anything like this, but just give me a more focus. Otherwise, I'm giving you not useful things.
Okay.
All right, who's the next volunteer? Who do we have?
So would you prefer to look at videos or gameplay?
I
Because we
think
have,
gameplay is always more useful. Always more useful. Like
okay.
evaluating gameplay through videos is not there's very strong diminishing returns on it.
Okay, so we have two volunteers who have gameplay. We have
Yeah.
Nahuri, which is number 4 on the list.
Okay. Let me see. I don't have that one downloaded for some reason.
Um, okay, maybe while you download that, we have the other one who is right above it, Hassan.
Okay. I'm almost done downloading this one, so I'll go fast. Which means I didn't get it. I didn't play this one. I apologize. I missed it somehow on my list.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. So you're gonna get it live at the same time. Okay, so I'm gonna start it and then I'm gonna share my screen. Are you seeing it?
Yes.
All right. So this is the start. If someone from the team, if you could already answer, what am I evaluating, just so I don't waste time talking about the wrong thing? What would you like feedback on? And if the answer is anything, then I'll just keep playing and you could watch to see what I do. I saw a door, I went through the door. I see a floor, I'm going through the floor. Oh, no, I am not. A floor is a lie. Can I crouch? I'm too tall, so I'll go elsewhere. Wow, look how I am a very tall person. Most door frames are like 2 meters tall, and I'm just a little bit less than 2 meters. So I'm a big character. You might want to scale it down. We always make door frames way bigger, comically big in video games, way bigger than they're not to scale. We never do it to scale. If you look at door frames, if you look at stairs, everything is bigger. And there are a lot of reasons for this, but one of the main reasons is it just makes your life easier, especially in multiplayer games, because if you have collision on a character, one person standing in a door frame, nobody else can leave or get in. But even just camera issues, etc., as much as possible, we have things bigger. Okay, I think my lamp stopped working. So is this a maze? I think this is a maze. I don't know, by the way, I can't see the chat, so if someone is answering in chat, when I shared screen, it disappeared.
Yeah, he said you can discover how the game works. Like the street, there's houses, and inside the house, garage.
Oh, I could run.
Inside the basement, which have the full fun. Press R and then F.
R and then F. Oh, F, R. I see. What's R? Okay. I'm assuming it's an exploration game and that I'm meant to move around and explore. And you said something about the basement. I tried to go in and I couldn't. So maybe that's what the R is for. So I'm gonna try to go. Oh, what is this? Uh, okay. That was probably unintentionally creepy. But now that I see it's a T-posed kid halfway through the ground, I'm a little less creeped out. Initially, I'm like, I had a The Shining moment. I saw murder.
Okay.
Yeah.
He said press C when you enter.
When I enter here,
I
okay.
think
So
so.
you definitely, oh, okay. You definitely need a prompt there for playtesting. Okay. I don't see any like text prompt at all. I don't know if that's intentional. Is it covered by my bar? Maybe it's covered by my Zoom bar. No, I see no UI. C again. What does C do? It changes the camera. Are you C is camera? Is that why I couldn't go in? Because camera couldn't follow? Because yeah, that's not. I would not suggest doing it that way. There should be no relevance. What's R? I'm just pressing all those. I have no idea why I'm here. I might just leave. See again? Yeah, yeah. You don't want your camera to prevent you from going into a place. The camera has to conform to where you want to go. So even if you do that like automatically on a trigger, when you're in this trigger, switch to the other camera, that's fine. But either way, your camera should never have a collision that prevents you from going anywhere at all. That's not intuitive. Nobody like I say never. I'm talking obsolete. Of course, if in absolutes, I mean, of course, if your game that's the mechanic, that's fine. But I had no reason to believe that you need this. Why
He
can't I
said that
run anymore? Okay.
so he said that C is for
Oh.
crouching, but the animation is not working.
Oh, forget everything I said. Yeah, that's valid. If you needed to, I couldn't tell. I thought it was the camera. I apologize. That's very good context, and I should have figured. C is for crouching. Makes sense. It's also for camera, so you can understand why I got confused. Thank you. Right. Okay, this looks different, so maybe this is different. We'll time box this. I'll play for a little bit more. But like there's a lot of nothing. I'm not saying that like in a mean way, but like if this is about exploration, go limit how long I'm just in an empty corridor. I know that you're not finished with the game, but this is not it's potentially a frustrating experience if you are going through this long path. And if I'm anticipating a dead end, I don't want to walk back. Like there are other ways to do this that maybe will be in your best interest. But what I would do is don't build the whole thing. Build modularly, do only the part at the beginning that's interesting, bring the other parts closer, and then as you're adding more, then you could add gaps in between. But right now, what are you testing? If you're testing like this, I don't think this is uh, useful to see me just walk around forever hoping to bump into something. Instead, if there are interaction points, bring them closer. And as you're building more, then you could spread them out. So don't think I'm building the world. Think these are the modular parts I'm building, and then think what size of a world do I need after, right? So go back to the aesthetics. What's the goal of this game? Is it to scare you? Is it to have discovery? Is it and then what am I supposed to be testing? Because right now, like you said, oh, just walk around and explore. I still don't know what I was supposed to be testing, and that's valid. But if you play test this now, you're not going to get back like in this way. You're not going to get back very useful data, and that's the whole point of playtesting. You have to have a goal. It's like the scientific process. You have a hypothesis that you're testing. You don't just ask, like put people and then observe them. You're observing them in a context, to see if they're going to do the thing you expect them to do. So if I gave you the data you wanted, great, but I didn't know, I don't know how to comment on it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. So looking forward to updates on this one as well. I could tell it's still in its early phases, so I'm sure it's going to get better. Um, we could do one more. What
Okay.
other game can I play?
So the one right above that, number 3 on the sheet.
Okay.
It's the second answer, basically.
Yes, I have it. I'm sorry. It just moved the Zoom call up to the other screen, so I have to move you so I could share my screen. We'll take a look. So this one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So great. You have prompts, which is really good. I did try this earlier today, so I have an expectation. There is wall jumping. Uh, there's wall sliding. And then there was grappling. I remember this. Okay. Functionally, it works really well. What I really like is that you intuitively did the anticipation for the grapple. You see the frame right before it grapples, where you see it behind you. So you avoided the general mistake of grappling, which is you're already, the grapple already is extending towards where you want to go without the anticipation. That makes it very hard to get the right feel for it. So you fix that. You see like that the way it stretches. Bonus points would be is if you, and this is completely aesthetic and not necessarily, you already did it for left and right, but if you do the grapple for down as well, like if I'm grappling up, if the cord goes down instead, because then that'll give the feedback. The left and right is perfect. You see, like it's behind me when I'm going in one direction, I see it extend in the other way, so I get the feel for it, which is great. But for up and down, having that little touch where it's under you when you're grappling up, that would be really good. Otherwise, so the question is, what's your goal for here, and what more? How else can I help with feedback? So for wall sliding, it works really well. I could jump from it. What I would say is it happens a little quick, but it's not too bad. I would make it hang a little bit longer before you start sliding down, but that is depending on even the difficulty of the game that you want. Maybe you want me to slide down right away, and that's fine. But in terms of feel alone, I felt it slid a little too quick. Making it a little stickier usually feels better. The I don't have much to say about the grapple. Actually, felt really great. I love how the physics afterwards worked. I love that you could chain them together. I think you have a lot of potential to build on this. That was really great. In terms of the sprite work, is this your sprite? Did you draw this or did you borrow this sprite? All valid? Just curious. I really should bring up the chat because I have no idea your name.
It's assets, he says.
Assets. Okay, cool. So then it's fine. I won't comment on the sprite directly, but if you do plan on replacing the sprites, um, just think about the same things I was saying before about like the anticipation or the startup frames and then the action frames and the recovery frames to a degree. Here, like the reason I'm saying this is because when I land from the jump, I land straight into a stand up. It's not bad, but it feels better to have like just one frame where you're, like squished, crouched, just as you're landing. It feels better to do that. Same thing when you're jumping and grabbing the wall. It feels good to have one frame of grab before I turn around to slide. Just think of in keyframes, like what is happening. Can you break it down into three things? And then when you break it down into those three things, draw the extremes of those things first, or find or modify the sprite to the extreme of those things, and only start with those and only add in betweens as they're needed. Focus on feel first. But this is, I think, a solid foundation. I don't know what else you have planned, but I'm excited to see where else you go from here. But this feels really good. This was, yeah, 2 thumbs up so far. That works?
Okay. Thank you so much for taking time to try the games.
It's my
I
pleasure.
yeah, I do hope that you get to try the others at your own
I
time and at your own free will.
I do, but now I'm gonna make everyone a little bit upset because I'm gonna give homework. Uh, So the homework for everybody, and I'm not gonna check if you're gonna do it or not. So like you can cheat if you want, but you're just cheating yourself. When you're coming up with your games, like there's two categories. The first is think of what your aesthetic intentions are. Write it down. Don't just have it in your head. Write it down, even if you're solo. These are your creative pillars. I want the game to do this, to do this, to do that. You could change it later. That's okay, but then write it down if you change it later. This way, it'll help you evaluate everything that you're building. The mistake of not doing this is that you'll come up with an idea and you'll build it without evaluating if it's going to get you where you want to go. A lot of people waste a lot of time and money doing this, and then they have systems and they're confused why they spend so much time on a system that no one uses. And it's because it did, like, in retrospect, when you look at it, like, oh, of course no one used it because it's not really part of the game, or they could do this other way. So always start with your creative goals, and then you could have design goals built on those creative pillars. There's different ways to call them, but it's the same thing. It's like this game is about feeling helpless. Well, now you know you don't want to get a bazooka. Like it could be as clear as that, right? And then after that, break that down. I'm not telling you to spend a lot of time in documentation, but at the bare minimum, you have to have some level of planning of what the game is about that you could evaluate everything on. And the second is don't just playtest like blindly. For each playtest, you have to have a goal. And you have to try to communicate that goal as much as possible to the playtester when it makes sense to. If you're very late in the development, it's very different. It's like, okay, now the game is finished, but also understand who you're building this game for and ask the playtesters if they are that target audience. Sometimes it's not necessary. Like if you're like, hey, how do the controls feel? I don't care what other games you play. I want to know how they feel. Other times it is necessary. Like you're building a MOBA and you're like uh, trying to teach it to a player who never played a MOBA before. Maybe they're going to have the exact same problems with existing MOBAs too. Like, are you okay with that? Unless your target audience is a MOBA for people who don't play MOBAs. You understand how like how specific you have to be and how all of that is super super important. So your homework is creative pillars. The rest is gonna come after. But every game that you work on should have the game is for this player. I want these feelings out of this game. I want them to feel like this. Fair?